Laura Bennett had never been one for neighborhood drama. After decades running a small floral shop, raising 3 kids alone after her husband's death, and weathering the storms of the 2008 market crash and the pandemic's chokehold on her business, she was done with other people's nonsense. All she wanted was a quiet corner of the world, a tidy yard, a VYEW to sip her coffee to, and neighbors who kept their opinions to themselves. So when she found a cozy lakeside bungalow in Willow Bend, she told her realtor one thing flat out. No homeowners associations, no community boards, no busybodies pretending they ran the show. The listing seemed perfect. No active HOA, the agent said, just a loose neighborhood group with some local traditions. It sounded harmless enough to Laura, who was tired of rules but cautious of anything too vague. The price was good. The trees were old and shady, and the place felt like an escape from the city without being out in the middle of nowhere. She signed the papers in a week, moved in a month later with a few pieces of furniture, some cherished keepsakes, and a fierce determination to be left alone. The first few weeks were bliss. Laura planted roses along her front path, painted her mailbox a soft sage green that made her smile, and spent evenings on her deck watching the lake ripple onto the sunset. Her neighbors seemed fine, most waved. A few offered tips about local lawn care or delivery service VYCS, but nobody got pushy. Not at first. Across the street sat a pristine 2-story house with flawless shrubs and a flag that never sagged, even on still days. It belonged to Diane Marshall, a retired accountant who, as Laura would soon discover, saw herself as the unofficial queen of Willow Bend. Diane was the kind of woman whose smile felt like a test, her head tilted just so when she asked how you were, like she was weighing your answer for hidden flaws. Laura heard whispers about Diane early on. She keeps things in order, one neighbor said, like she was the mom of the block. Laura didn't need a mom. She needed peace, routine, and the freedom to choose her own porch cushions without someone's approval. That dream held for exactly 39 days. Then, one morning, she opened her mailbox and found a crisp envelope labeled Willow Bend Community Standards Notice. Inside was a letter on fancy paper, the kind you'd use for a job interview, VYEW, or a wedding. At the top, a logo of 2 crossed willows with the words for the harmony of the bend underneath. It claimed Laura had broken 3 community expectations. Her mailbox color wasn't aligned. Her roses clashed with the block's foliage standards, and her porch light didn't match the approved aesthetic. Each violation came with a suggested fee to restore VY-SUL unity, due lot $200 total. The language was sharp, formal, and carried a tone that dared you to laugh it off. Laura did laugh, but it was the kind of laugh you let out when you're more pissed than amused. She set the letter on her counter, sipped her coffee, and called the county. No HOA existed in Willow Bend. No registered group. No legal authority to demand a dime. The fees were fake. She figured that was the end of it. She didn't respond, didn't pay, and didn't change a thing. But silence speaks loud in places like Willow Bend. 3 days later, her trash wasn't picked up marked inaccessible, though she'd placed it exactly right. The next day, her freshly painted mailbox was smeared with mud. Then her porch light started turning off every night. It was petty, sneaky vandalism, no broken glass, no spray paint, just the creeping sense that someone was watching, waiting, nudging her to bend. Laura felt it. The eyes, the judgment, the pressure not from laws, but from something uglier, a quiet mob mentality. A week later, a second letter slid under her door while she was in the shower, signed by Diane Marshall, acting coordinator of Willow Bend. It was polite, almost sweet, saying Diane understood Laura was new and offering to guide her into smooth integration. That word integration stuck in Laura's craw. It wasn't in VY-tation, it was a command. Diane ended with an INVYTE to a neighborhood gathering to discuss harmony practices. Laura didn't go. What followed wasn't loud or OBVYS. It was slow, deliberate. A bike chain appeared wrapped around her gate. A wilted plant, not hers, showed up on her doorstep. A wind chime she didn't own hung in her tree, tinkling faintly. Her packages started landing at the curb, not the porch. The local plumber stopped answering her calls. A neighbor she'd chatted with twice crossed the street to avoid her. Laura wasn't naive. She dealt with tough customers, shady suppliers, even small-town politics, but this was different. It was personal, orchestrated, and it was Diane. Diane never yelled or threatened. She just appeared, like when Laura was hosing her driveway and Diane strolled by with a glass of lemonade, offering it with a smile. Laura said no thanks. Diane's eyes narrowed. "It's easier to be part of something than to stand outside it," she said. Laura held her gaze. "I like the VYEW from out here." Diane's smile vanished. Laura started a file. Every letter, every incident, dates, times, details. The day her trash bin was missed. The weather when her mail was left open. The morning her garden hose was moved across the yard. She wasn't building a lawsuit. She was holding on to what was hers. She backed up her security footage, not expecting trouble, but refusing to be caught off guard. She didn't gossip or beg for allies, but she didn't hide either. And so the quiet war began, not with a scream, but with a flickering porch light, a smug letter, and a woman named Diane who thought everyone in her sight line answered to her. The second envelope came on a heavy morning, placed dead center on her doormat like a challenge. Laura stood there, keys in hand, staring at it. This wasn't a repeat. It was a step up. The letter accused her of disrupting communal harmony and put her on probationary resident status. Words so absurd they'd be funny if they didn't come with teeth. That same day, the lawn crew she'd booked canceled, mumbling about complications. A new sign appeared in the neighborhood center. Community pride, participating homes only, with arrows pointing to every house but hers. It was erasure, subtle but sharp. The local grocer forgot her usual discount. Delivery drivers left boxes by the street. A kid who used to wave at her now stared blankly. Then the trash got worse. Simone's garbage bags torn open in her yard, eggs smashed, coffee ground strewn. Once, a bag of burger wrappers was left on her mat like a taunt. Laura didn't scream or cry. She cleaned up, found a new lawn sare VYC, chained her bins, and installed motion lights. For 10 days, it stopped. Then a man in a vest knocked, clipboard in hand, claiming to be a property liaison for a VY Sewell inspection based on complaints. Laura asked for his department. "Community Sare VYCS," he said vaguely. "That's not a department," she shot back, shutting the door in his face. She watched him walk straight to Diane's porch. That night, her street went darker side only, no power for 2 days. Her fridge spoiled, her phone nearly died, and she lived by candlelight. On the third morning, tossing out ruined food, Laura made a choice. This wasn't about privacy anymore. It was about being pushed. And when you push someone like Laura Bennett, widow, mother, Sir VY Vori, you don't get a doormat. You get a wall. She pinned every letter, photo, and note to her office wall, a timeline of Diane's campaign. It wasn't just one woman, it was a system, a web of whispers and favors that made people comply to avoid trouble. Laura didn't want war, but she wouldn't surrender her home to a bully in a cardigan. The next move came on a yellow card taped to her window, listing non-compliant issues and a pending penalty of due law 73. Laura didn't just file it, she acted. She drove to City Hall with copies of every document and filed a harassment complaint. The clerk, initially skeptical, took it seriously after seeing the stack. It went on record, but Diane didn't stop. Laura found her side gate ajar, a boot print in the dirt, patio chairs shifted just enough to unsettle. She installed a camera. 3 nights later, it caught a man, not Diane, but one of her cronies walking her yard at 4:19 a.m., pausing by her window. Laura filed another report with the footage. Then a sign appeared in her yard, pending aesthetic correction zone. It was professional, official-looking, but fake. Laura pulled it down, added it to her file, and called her lawyer, Sarah, a no-nonsense woman from her home sale. Sarah re-VYEU'd everything and said, "You've got a pattern. Let them dig their own hole." Laura nodded. She also requested a public records check on Willow Bend's community trust. The result? Nothing. No trust, no board, no legal standing, just Diane's paper empire. Then came a fake utility crew, snapping photos from her curb, followed by a flyer about a gas line issue and a freeze on yard changes. Laura marched to City Hall again, demanding an investigation into impersonation. The clerk noted the flyer matched another case nearby. 2 days later, MOVYing truck blocked her driveway for hours, claiming Community Transition Board approval. Laura called for a tow. The truck left. The paper joined her file. Diane was trying to erase her, paint her as the problem. Laura didn't yell or post rants online. She planned. Quiet resistance wasn't enough anymore. She needed to be seen. So she rented a billboard on the road into Willow Bend, right in Diane's line of sight. The message was simple. I don't owe you. 5 words, white on black, bold as a slap. Sarah filed a cease and desist letter to Diane, citing harassment and interference. Neighbors started to crack small gestures, a nod, a returned rake. Diane doubled down, sending flyers about a harmony committee with stricter rules. But when the billboard went up, Laura watched from her window as Diane stood frozen on her porch, staring. For the first time, Laura felt steady, not victorious, just grounded. This wasn't revenge. It was truth. Diane didn't quit. Utilities flickered, internet dropped, lights glitched, sprinklers reset. Handwritten notes appeared. You did this to yourself. The billboard's a coward's move. We know who DVY'd us. Laura scanned them, filed them, called the sheriff. Her trash bins vanished. One found burned in a ditch. Someone cut her grass too short, planted strange flowers in her beds, left a gnome by her tree that crept closer each day. A matching welcome mat appeared at her back door. Laura trashed it, chained her bin, and met with Sarah to draft a legal warning to Diane and her allies, sent to the county and every resident. Sarah suggested a security consultant. Laura added cameras, sensors, and proximity locks. Then a note begged her to remove the billboard. Stop making it worse. She left it on her step for all to see. The warning letter landed like a bomb. It listed every incident, cited laws, named no names, but pointed straight at Diane. 2 neighbors greeted Laura openly. Another joked about the gnome. Diane vanished for days, then stood by Laura's mailbox, touching it like it held her secrets, meeting Laura's eyes before walking away. No words, just defeat. But Laura knew Diane wasn't gone. She was plotting. A law firm letter demanded the billboard's removal, citing a fake circle council. Sarah shut it down. Pro-VYing no such rules existed. Then a box appeared on Laura's porch, 6 photos of her from her own cameras, eyes crossed out. Laura called the sheriff. The deputy took it, asking about enemies. Just one, she said, in her fan club. She changed her locks, added an indoor camera, and varied her lights. Diane's house went dark, her flag gone. A real city inspector came, tipped off anonymously about illegal construction. He found nothing, mentioned similar calls countywide, and left. Laura sent his name to Sarah, who filed a complaint to flag Diane's calls. The county requested Laura's full file, opening a mediation request. Neighbors dismantled Diane's, symbols, flags down, mats changed, chalk paths erased. A letter arrived. She doesn't speak for us. Thank you. Laura kept it, looked out at Willow Bend, and knew it wasn't hers. But it wasn't Diane's either. The billboard stayed, no longer a spark but a fixture. Diane returned to her hedges, her smile tight, pretending nothing had changed. The flyer stopped. The council dissolved. Neighbors offered small Kinessessa light recommendation, a deck repair offer, a kid's compliment on her roses. Laura took them as they came, not needing approval, just space. Sarah closed the case in fall. The county probed similar schemes elsewhere. Laura didn't care. She wasn't a crusader. Her file might help someone else, and that was enough. She kept her cameras, her chain bins, her roses. Some lines you redraw until they stick. On a frosty winter morning, Laura walked to the billboard, wiped frost from its edges, and read her words, I don't owe you. She smiled, not for winning, but for knowing some debts aren't owed. Some circles aren't yours to join. Willow Bend shifted around her, and it learned to let her be. What do you think? Did Laura go too far with the billboard? Or was it the only way to stop Diane's reign? Could the neighbors have stepped up sooner? Or were they too trapped by Diane's system? Should Laura have sued? Or was her quiet war smarter? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button if you felt the tension, and subscribe for more stories that'll keep you guessing.